Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look kind of at this Dell Optiplex, but for a different reason than normal. I'm not testing this thing, I'm not really even looking at performance. Really, I'm not even booting the thing up whatsoever, but we're looking at this as a test product, as something to just sort of get a visual on, because this is one of the cheapest ways to get into PC gaming. So let's go ahead and take a look at just how you can get up and running PC gaming with readily available deals, which is something that I know everyone that sees YouTubers talk about the deals they're getting. You want to see ready to get deals. This is one of those cases. So we're going to take a look at this, see what's involved with getting up and running with a very, very cheap setup such as this one. So let me go ahead and go over the central premise of this video, which is basically that the Dell Optiplex or other similar style pre-built PCs that are readily available right now on eBay for very inexpensive costs are just the cheapest way, or about the cheapest way, unless you catch just a really killer deal out there. It's about the cheapest way to get up and running on a gaming PC. Now, the number one criticism of gaming PCs that I hear on a somewhat regular basis when I'm talking with people about getting up and going with gaming on a PC is that they are prohibitively expensive. And there's this very vast misconception that it takes $700 or $800 to get a reasonable gaming PC. Now, even if you're building, or rather buying, a pre-built gaming PC, you can do it for quite a bit cheaper than that. Now, there are some drawbacks to going this pre-built route that is also used or on the used market, and the biggest one is likely that there's not nearly the same upgradability that you get with modern PCs, especially if you're looking at the AM4 platform, which you can go anywhere from a 2 cores and 4 threads all the way up right now to 8 cores and 16 threads, though it looks like in the near future you might even be able to upgrade that further with more cores and more threads, depending on what the 3000 series of Ryzen chips does for us. But this Dell PC here, this is a Haswell based system. It has a limited upgrade path. When you're going to buy a system like this, you definitely want to make sure that you see pictures of the inside, or at least find and hunt down pictures, even if it's just a Google image search for this particular model, because you want to see exactly what's going on in there, and you're looking for a couple of things. The first one is, what is the length that you have for your graphics card that you're going to be adding in later, because the vast majority of these systems only come with either a what amounts to a graphics adapter card, which is something more like this little guy. It's not going to really do you much good for gaming outside of League of Legends, but you're going to want to replace that, or it'll just come with integrated graphics altogether and you won't even get a GPU added in there whatsoever. So you definitely want to see what the length you're working with is. Now, for these Dell Optiplex systems, it looks like we're working with a maximum graphics card length of about 10 inches long. So this is actually going to eliminate some of the highest end cards out there. But the good news with that is, if you're building a system that is this budget minded with not spending money, you're probably not looking at those longer graphics cards anyways. Now, the caveat there is you could always just hack out the hard drive bay, and that would open you up to really be able to fit in virtually any card you wanted based on length alone. So if you do really want to pack in a really high-end card that's just huge, or maybe you're working with almost any AMD card over an RX 580, like a Vega 56, a Vega 64, something like that, where those cards do tend to be a little bit just bigger in general, then if you're willing to hack out the hard drive cage, then that opens up that possibility. But the other big thing that you need to pay attention to with any pre-built, and fortunately these Dell Optiplexes tend to be pretty good about this, is making sure there's no essential ports that are located right next to those graphics card slots. And that's mostly because a lot of times the SATA ports are right behind those graphics card slots, those PCIe by 16 slots. And sometimes if you have a graphics card that's really much longer than the PCIe slot itself, those cover up a lot of those SATA ports and might actually limit you on the number of drives that you're able to fit into the system, because all those ports are blocked up by the graphics card. Fortunately, this particular motherboard does not suffer from that, but that is another one of the big reasons why you need to get a good look at the inside of the case with the exact model of the pre-built that you're looking at, so you can make sure that you have a couple of expansion slots available. You want obviously the one for the actual card to fit into, but normally you also then need the slot below it to be available, because most modern graphics cards, the vast majority of them, are at least double slot cards, so you're gonna need a little bit of room in there, so you wanna make sure you have plenty of room to work with in the case. We're gonna go over to eBay now and actually hop over to this side of things, and we're gonna go ahead and put in just a simple search on eBay, and we're gonna search for computer. Now, if you're willing to bid on things, you can obviously be much more patient with this, but I like to go ahead and click buy it now, and then I also like to go to price, shipping lowest to highest, so we get the absolute cheapest computers out there. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to processor type and click see all. I'm going to be checking i5 processors from the 2nd gen through the 4th gen, because in my opinion, that is where the best deals are. You can occasionally find something like a Skylake i5 that's not too outrageous, but really much over the 3rd gen i5s, even the Haswell ones tend to be a little bit, in my mind, too expensive. So we're just going to click apply and start scrolling down and finding the cheapest Dells, or really any pre-builts, that are the mini towers. We don't really want the small form factor ones. Okay, so what I found here is this Dell Optiplex 3010. Now, there are a couple things I don't love about this particular Dell. One of them would be that there's only 4 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. Now, I did go ahead and scroll down and check up on this. There is one stick in there, so even if we get a motherboard, which I believe, based on the pictures I've looked at, the 3010 only has 2 DIMM slots to begin with, so it's really important that there's only one RAM stick there, because we can always add in 4 gigabytes more of DDR3 RAM. But the other bit is this thing is already $100 or $99.99. Now, you could make an offer, and in fact, I've had pretty good success with a lot of these places that sell these kind of in bulk, of shooting a lowball offer and meaning somewhere in the middle. So it's very possible you could get this for $90 or so, but this is a little bit on the higher end than I would really like to pay, because I know already I'm gonna have to buy another stick of DDR3 RAM, probably 4 gigabytes, though you could always get an 8 gigabyte stick and land on 12 gigabytes of total RAM, and then you are gonna have to add system storage. Now, every now and then you'll get one of these that has, for about this price, 8 gigabytes of DDR3 with a 1 terabyte hard drive. And in those cases, I still recommend adding an SSD for about $20, just a 120 gigabyte standard commodity class SSD, to give yourself a little bit more of a snappy operating system. But we're gonna go ahead and go with this system. Now, the one nice thing about these motherboards is, and this changed with the Haswell systems, as you probably noticed already, is this uses standard ATX plugs for the power on the motherboard. So you can just replace the power supply if you go a route that requires a power supply. Maybe you're getting an RX 570, 580, something like that. You can just get a normal ATX power supply, no adapters or anything, and plug it in and get ready to go. The other thing that I do like with the 3010 here is, just like this system, it doesn't look like there's going to be any essential ports that are kind of in our way when we're trying to plug in our graphics card here. So I would go ahead and pick up this system if I was doing this right now for myself today. That would be $100. Now we're gonna move on to the graphics card side of things. Now, one of the nice things to come out of the recent cryptocurrency boom and then subsequent bust was the fact that there are lots of used graphics cards out on the market now. You do run the risk, obviously, of running into old mining cards, and your mileage may vary with those, but it's hard to deny right now that the RX 580 is one of the best values out there on the used market. For example, this one is right now $103, buy it now, and that's in addition to you having to pay $10 in shipping, or $9.45. So what we're really looking at is $113-ish for an 8 gigabyte RX 580, which will pair excellently with that i5 Ivy Bridge system that we already picked up, again, if I was actually purchasing these things. So I would go ahead and take a look at this card specifically. So we're looking at the Red Dragon RX 580. So before we click buy, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure the card would actually fit in the case that we have with this Optiplex, but I think it will, but I am going to do the Newegg search just to make sure. So this card is apparently 10.04 inches long, and I am pretty confident that that card would work just fine in this case. At worst, you might have to trim some metal in there, but I'm working with a little bit more than 10 inches, so I think that card would actually just fit in this case, which would be just perfect. And I believe, actually popping back over to the Newegg link here, it looks like it is just a one plug connector here. See if we can find a better picture of the, yep. So we have one 8-pin power connector that we'll need to account for. And while we're at Newegg here, since we now have the actual system in place, we have the card that we're going to be buying, we might as well go ahead and check out The power supply is available. Now, I like to buy power supplies brand new, mostly just for my own peace of mind. They're not all that expensive to get just up and running with one, and it may save you some headaches down the road. So I like to go to Newegg. We're not going to need any sort of a huge, awesome boss power supply. We're going to go for a 400 to 500 watt system. We're going to look for 80 plus certified power supplies here, and we're going to click that apply button. Then we're just going to sort for the cheapest ones available and see what that gives us. So it looks like you're going to be paying about $33 to $35 right now. You can often find these things considerably cheaper than that. If you're lucky, you can find sometimes even on like Amazon warehouse deals, like open box deals, that sort of thing. You can get power supplies cheaper than that, but we'll just pretend for a minute that we're gonna buy this sort of $36 ARC one because it looks like it's probably a little bit better than this RD400S, but this is gonna cost us only about $36, and that's with free shipping. So if we're just estimating the cost now, we're up to sort of the $240-ish range. Now we're gonna pop over to eBay, find some RAM, then we're gonna hop over to Amazon and get our storage, and we should be done. So you can find RAM really cheap if you're just looking for a 4GB stick. Anywhere from, this one is $9 with free shipping, and I've seen them go up to about $15, $16, $17. So we'll call it about $10 for the RAM that you're gonna wanna add to the 4GB that does come with the system. So now we're up to about the $250 price, and we're just looking at storage. And I'm gonna do the combination here. I think you should get, in my opinion, you should get a large capacity hard drive if you're trying to be cost effective. You could stop there. I usually like to go for a standard 1TB drive because they are very cheap, though it does get even cheaper per gigabyte if you go ahead and bump that up to 2TB, 3TB, and so forth. But then I also like to pair that with a 120GB SSD just to give you a nice, really snappy boot drive for your OS and then probably one or two of your games. So we're gonna go ahead and go to Amazon and check out where we are there. Now, if you are getting a hard drive and that's the only storage that you're using for your system, sometimes it is a good idea to buy a brand new hard drive. Since I am not gonna go that route with this particular system, I don't have a problem buying a resealed, or not resealed, but rather what they call renewed, which is basically refurbished drive. You can get a Seagate 1TB drive, for example, for $30. That's gonna be quite a bit cheaper than you could get a brand new 1TB drive for. And then for the 120GB SSD, I find that these commodity class $20 ones, whether it's an Inland one here, a Kingston one, I've had pretty good luck with them, and they're very inexpensive at just $20. Combine that with a $30 hard drive, we're talking right at $50 for our storage, which gives us 1TB of mass storage for a lot more of the games that we would be playing, and then 120GB for our OS, and again, maybe a couple few of the games that you play most. And that should bring our cost total to somewhere in the $300 price range. I am going to go ahead and open up the calculator and check that out. Okay, to walk through the pricing again, we had right at $100 for the base system. We had $113 for the graphics card, that's including shipping. Then we had the $10 for the RAM. We had the power supply at $35 and right at $50 for our storage, for a grand total of $300-ish and $8-ish for the entire Dell Optiplex system. This is an i5 system that's gonna give you really solid 1080p performance in even the most modern AAA titles. An i5 Ivy Bridge CPU is gonna be able to drive you almost certainly at 60 FPS in everything. Now, the upgrade path is a little limited with the power supply upgrade, though. We should have no issue whatsoever upgrading to an i7 down the road. But for $308, you can be playing modern AAA titles at 1080p, likely high settings with that 580 8GB card in there. You're not gonna be bottlenecked by a VRAM buffer with that 8 gigs of VRAM. $308. It's really not an expensive thing to get into. Add in there a $100 to $150 monitor, add in some peripherals. You might be looking at a $500 setup, but you're gonna be playing games at higher refresh rates, or rather higher frame rates, with probably a higher refresh rate monitor. If you're willing to spend more like $150, you can definitely get yourself a 120 or 144 hertz 1080p panel. Might not be the best panel out there, but you can get up and running with one, and you're gonna be playing your games at higher frame rates than consoles have any chance of playing at. And it gives you that much more control over your gaming experience as well. You have all the control of your settings. You have cheaper games available to you through Steam and other marketplaces. It's a great way to get on the PC platform if you're on a tight budget. So hopefully this video was in fact helpful. If I was doing this for the first time myself today, that's the exact process I would use to get into the PC gaming market on a very light budget. So that is the quick and dirty on how to get up and running quickly and easily with readily available deals using eBay, Amazon, or other outlets of your choosing. But if you like this video, I do want to hear from you in those comments down below. Maybe you have some other tips and tricks to get yourself up and running very easily, quickly, and most importantly, inexpensively with PC gaming. If you do have those tips and tricks, let us know in those comments down below. And of course, while you're down there, go ahead and hit the like, share, subscribe. All those things are helpful to the channel. You can follow me on both Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.